Let's talk about graphing quadratic equations. Now, for my class, whenever we're graphing, you're always allowed to use a graphing calculator. We will rely on it heavily, and we will also talk about things that you would need to know that a graphing calculator can't tell you. But I do think it's a good skill to know how to use a graphing calculator because it's a powerful tool that allows you to do a lot of cool things. So with this problem, we're going to graph y equals x squared minus 6. So anytime you want to graph, what you want to do is you got to go to the y equals button, which is the top left. And what we want to do is, in that first line, if there's something else there, you could always hit the clear button, clear it out. Let's type in our equation, which is x squared minus 6. Now, all the way on the right over here is a button that says graph. You could hit that, and it will graph your function. So this is what the graph should look like. Now, this is all nice and neat for us, but what I want to do is I want to transfer as much information from here back over to my paper. So the first thing I like to do is I like to get a table of values here. So if you want to get a table of values from your graph, that same graph button, if you look right above it in a different color, on mine it's in blue, it says table. To get that to the table, you have to hit the blue button, the second button first, and then go to table. Now, if you use those up and down arrows, you'll see this table is actually humongous. There's lots of numbers in there that we could use. We just have to figure out which numbers we want to use. So what I'm going to look for is I'm looking for with a quadratic. So if we look back at that graph, it goes in a U shape. So it's kind of the same on both sides there, which is a pretty big characteristics. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the table and scroll up and down so I can look for where do the numbers start repeating. Now up here, you'll see numbers like, and I'm looking at my y values, 94, 75, 58, 43, 30, 19, 10. Not much repetition, but if you scroll down, then that's when you'll start seeing repetition. And right here is what I want to find. So notice how I have a 3 and a 3. The first and the last number repeat. -2 and -2. The second numbers there repeat. -5, -5, and -6 in the middle. I want to find that repetition. More importantly, I want to find where that middle is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this table now that I find that middle, that repetition. I'm going to copy it down on my paper. So I'm going to have -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. And I should have a 3 here, a 3 there, a -2 here, a -2 there, -5 here, -5 there, -6, and -6. So that's a pretty big thing I pulled out of the calculator, and I'm going to use this to do the rest of the problem by hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plot these points on my graph. So each row here is a point. So -3, +3. So I need to go x is -3, 1, 2, 3. And then y is +3, so I go up 3, 1, 2, 3, to this point right here. -2, -2. So I need to go left 2, 1, 2, down 2, 1, 2. -1, -5, so left 1, down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0, 6, or sorry, 0, -6. So don't go left to right, go down -6. Just plotting all these points. 1, -5, 2, -2, 3, 3. Now, what you should notice is that parabola shape, that U shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with my pen, and I'm going to trace along and make my parabola go all the way to the edge of the graph. And a good check there is what I have on my paper should resemble what I have in the graphing calculator. Now I have a few follow-up questions here. First one being the vertex. Now the vertex is, you notice how a lot of students like to think, oh, we have two legs and where they meet. This point, that tipping point, is the vertex. So you can look at your graph, and that is at 0, -6. The other way you can find the vertex is it's going to be the middle of this repetition there. So it's the middle of all the repeating numbers, 0, -6. Then we have this thing called the Axis of Symmetry. Another name for that could be your line of symmetry. Now in geometry and all that, you've dealt with lines of symmetry. And what you think of that is there should be a line that when you fold the graph over that line, it matches on both sides. Which that line goes right down the middle here. So I'm using red, and I'm putting dashes there. that would be my line of symmetry. So the right side should match the left side of this line of symmetry. So what we want with the axis of symmetry is we want that equation. And what it's going to be is we go through where x is 0. That would be the equation of the line of symmetry. The last thing I want to talk about is where our function is increasing or decreasing. So the way you could do this is we're going to trace our graph here. But just like how you read like graphing quadratics, we move from left to right, I'm going to do that here. So I'm going to start on the leftmost side. Now if I want to trace along my graph here, I come down, which should hint at decrease. I'm coming down here. Then after I get to the vertex, I start going up, increasing. So we decrease on the left side, increase on the right side. Decrease, increase. And what I want to do is I want to say for what x values we are increasing or decreasing on. So we're going up here on the right side, but on the right side of what? Well, we were talking about x's, so all x values to the right of here, by the way, if we're talking to the right, that's to the greater side. This is going to be the less than side. So we should have x is greater than, well, it goes right through this x value, which is 0. So for x is greater than 0, we are increasing. And let's talk about where we're decreasing. Well, it was on the left side, we're coming down. So we need x is less than, and the x value, all x is to the left of this point right here, which is 0. So x is less than 0. Now before I end here, there is a very interesting thing that happens here. 4 different pieces here, and I'm going to do another video on graphing quadratics that kind of refines some of this. But there's a key thing that you should notice here. The x value, that number, shows up in all 4 answers. That is not a coincidence. That should happen every single time. The x value shows up in all 4 spots. That is not a coincidence. So that was Graphing Quadratics 1, and I'll follow this up with another quadratics video to refine more of these ideas, because this is the difficult stuff down here.